Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to White Wolf Palace versus new players, two of the best Chinese team game teams in Age of Empires 4 battling it out in the round of 16th of AoE4 Pro League. It is Mr. Yo, Bat Koala, and the Fat Dragon, Vivi, versus CSOH. It is Fat Penguin in purple and Yomu in green. Thank you so much for Twitch chat for translating these names to me. On the left side of the map, we're going to have, in the flank, Mr. Yo playing as the English in red. On the other flank, we're going to have Bat Koala playing as the yellow Mongols. And in the pocket, we're going to have Vivi playing as the French in blue. To the north, it is going to be Fat Penguin playing as the purple English. We will have CSOH playing as the Mongols in teal. And the pocket is going to be Yomu playing as the green. Looking at the maps, the first thing that you're going to notice is that you do have two players from the new players starting pretty close to each other, and one is sort of further away. That could leave this player in purple quite exposed, whereas on the other side, the distribution of players is a lot more even for White Wolf Palace. Vivi is located sort of halfway in between the two teammates. Looking at the town center location of CSOH, that is a beautiful town center spot to start with. He has the gold mine right next to it. He has the food line as well. His OVU is quite far away, and he already has a barracks up, so it's looking like he's going for a spearman opening. This will be scouted by Bat Koala though, so he's expecting it. Khan already moving forward. Usually when you see a spearman opening like this one, you accompany that with a tower rush. The question is, who are you going to tower rush? Usually the target is the pocket player, because that's the player that has the cavalry civilization, likely French, so you're trying to tower rush his gold mine to prevent night production. Looking at Vivi's gold mine, that is a spectacular mining camp spot. It's right in between the gold and the stone, will be useful in the future. And you do see a barracks coming out from Bat Koala as well. That was a reaction to the steel barracks coming in here from CSOH. Only a single spearman coming out though, so the first spearman that was trained wasn't in a batch of two. There is another two coming in right now, so already quite a lot of spearmen out here for CSOH, but Bat Koala can catch up quite easily. So I don't think it's going to be a massive source of concern for him, seeing some spearmen coming towards him. On the left side, you do have a standard English opening for Mr. Yo and Fat Penguin, both of them going for the Council Hall. And in the pocket, you already have a mill up for Yomu. He is going to have professional scouts coming in for him, and a mill is also being built by Vivi. So very similar openings for the pockets and the English flank. The only difference is that CSOH went a little more aggressive with his Mongols, whereas Bat Koala is playing a tiny bit more defensive at this point. So the first spearmen are just now coming in from CSOH. The target obviously is the OVU. They're trying to burn it down, prevent double training as much as possible. But with the spearmen around for Bat Koala, he should have no trouble holding this off. And indeed, the spearmen are already coming back. Looking at Vivi, he's aging up with the School of Cavalry, and you can expect something very, very similar from Yomu. And on the right side, obviously, extended Dark Age can be expected for the Mongol players, because they both went very aggressive on the Spearman department. Speed Arrow popped by Bat Koala. He's gonna get a couple of hits on those Spearmen, thanks to that. But ultimately, CSOH will be able to pull his forces back into his base. Looking at him, he's still popping out Spearmen quite actively, so he's really motivated to make this push happen. And of course, some spearmen on the battlefield could also support the green teammate here coming in with the knights against the knights of Vivi. So that's a factor to take a look at as well. In the top right of the screen, by the way, you can see the colors of each team. So in case you are a little confused which player belongs to which team, you can now see it on the top right. So you will be able to identify each player's team. As things stand, Bat Koala is getting some nice hits on those spearmen, but with CSOH coming in with the reinforcements, Bat Koala will have to disengage, because now the spearman numbers are way better for teal at this point. On the left side, we do have some walls coming in for Mr. Yo. That's going to limit the amount of raiding that Fat Penguin, our purple player, is going to be able to do on his base. Longbows already coming out. And in the middle of the map, we do have one forward scout from Vivi over here, making sure that he can see any kind of aggression coming his way. Looks like Bad Koala will be forced all the way back into his base. And as things stand, the two Mongol players are just going to play a 1v1 here with Spearmen. Minimal damage taken by either of these players, though, so at this point, really, the only reason why these players are making Spearmen is because the opponent is also making Spearmen, and CSO seems to be quite relentless with this. They are just popping out Spearmen all day, all night, whereas Bad Koala is probably trying to get to Feudal Age, and he's like, oh yeah, my opponent is still making spears, I have to do that as well. Longbow's already trickling in for Fat Penguin, and he's going to drop the outpost right over the front line. That's going to extend his network of castles bonus, and it's going to be a very nice staging ground to assault the base of Mr. Yo. Mr. Yo is playing a lot more defensive at this point. Looking at Yo's POV though, he's going to spot the longbows and he's going to try and intercept them. He might even intercept the fourth villager here, so Purple has to be careful about this one. Indeed, the tower will be denied for the time being. Now, there's only one scout here, so burning down this tower is going to take some time, even with those longbows nearby. But obviously, Mr. Yo is now aware that his opponent is going to launch a significant push against him. And I think that at this point, Vivi is going to send his first couple of knights to this side to make sure that this tower does not go up. The villager does get picked off by Mr. Yo. Nice find over there. That's going to delay that tower. Yo is going to lose that scout in exchange. But being able to snipe that villager is massive because you have to pull a brand new one to make that tower happen. That's exactly what Fat Penguin is going to do. On the right side, we do have a massive clash of spearmen at this point. Looks like Bad Koala had a slightly better fight over here. There seem to be more dead bodies from CSOH than from him. Many of his spearmen are still damaged though, and now he's trying to catch that Khan escaping with his own. Still in Dark Age are both Mongol players. On the left side, longbows are still crawling up for Fat Penguin, and he's getting close to completing that tower with that villager approaching. Knights also coming in here from Youmu, and soon you're going to need something from Vivi here to help out Mr. Yo, because Mr. Yo is a little bit on the back foot. He's cornered within his own base. Now, one thing to note is that while there is a mill here for Youmu, he decided not to take professional scouts. He only went for wheelbarrows, so he's starting to run out of food beneath his town center. He has to move out for the hunt, whereas for Vivi, he's going professional scouts. And because of that, obviously, Vivi's knight numbers are slightly lower. So that's the reason why Vivi only has 3 knights on the battlefield, as opposed to already 3 and a couple more trickling in from green. So slightly better knight numbers right now from green, thanks to the fact that he didn't go for professional scouts here. Defensive tower coming in from Bad Koala. He knows that this Ovu is just so important for him. He's the only player not in Feudal Age yet. He's rushing up the Deer Stones right now. Feudal Age already in for CSOH, and we see an archer range. Surprise! Bad Koala loops around with the Spearman though, and this could be a great raid. Burning down that archer range could be massive, and CSOH knows that very well. He's going to run away. Now has the hardened Spearman upgrades, his spears are slightly better, but Bad Koala is doing a ton of damage over here, and at this point, losing those Spearmen in exchange for the Ovu could be a great trade. Indeed, at this point, CSOH knows that he can't stop it, and it's very likely that this Ovu goes down. That's going to set back the archer production of CSOH quite a bit. Meanwhile, on the other side, looks like here comes the Stonewall Rush. This is what made Fat Penguin, I'm not saying world famous, but this is something that was such a spectacular idea in the set that they played yesterday. Make stone walls, delete one section, then you can walk up on that stone wall with your longbowman, and you can just use that as a staging ground, because on the top of the walls you're taking way less damage and you have way more range. Now, it seems you managed to pick off that villager that was sent to build this, but I feel like you can delay this. But stopping this is a completely different question, and I think the best response from Yo is doing the very same thing. Mining some stone and going for the same defensive stone wall strategy out there. Meanwhile, as much as CSOH lost his Ovu here to the yellow spearmen, which are still rampaging the base of green right now, Bad Koala is also in the danger of losing his Ovu at some point to the spears that are nearby. Still, these spearmen are doing so much work here for Bad Koala. Now they are hardened, and considering that the pocket player, Youmu, only has Royal Knights with green, it's going to be difficult to fight against all the spearmen. There are the villagers, only one from Fat Penguin pulled, but since there is already network of castles bonus over here for these longbows, they can win this fight against the ones of Mr. Yo, and as things stand, while the pocket player of the new players, Green, is sort of collapsing. He lost access to his gold mine. Their Mongol player lost their Ovu. Mr. Yo could be in trouble because you're going to see the wall trick right now. The wall is being deleted on one side, but with that, you basically gain an entrance to the top of this wall. This provides 66% range damage reduction for the longbows and also +2 range. So they do outrange Yo's longbows, and they also have massively reduced damage that they take, and now you start crawling up with those stone walls. Meanwhile, those spearmen are still active behind the base of Yomu. They are being pursued by some spears and some archers from our Teal player, CSOH. At this point, knight numbers are kind of similar. It looks like we will have Yomu charging in here. He might actually get a couple of kills because Vivi had some weak knights and he doesn't have chivalry yet, whereas Yomu already has. Fat Penguin crawling closer and closer to the base of Mr. Yo, and with those walls starting to surround the council hall, they can pretty much pick off the longbows that are coming out immediately. The villager almost gets picked up by the town center, survives with 2 health points left, but the wall is still being built. This strategy is built upon those walls going up, so keeping that villager alive is just vital at this point. And you see town center fire barely doing any damage to those longbowmen. This is how powerful this idea is. And the knights are also tempted to jump on the longbows of Mr. Yo. Yo can't really fight those longbows at this point. These guys have 9 range and of course 66% range damage reduction. There's no way Yo can shoot back at this point. Spearman still trading in the middle as Bad Koala's forces are finally getting cleaned up, and now White Wolf Palace is on the back foot. Looking at the Fat Dragon, he's going for quite a bit of a walling at this point, playing with 1 town center only. But Mr. Yo, he's in trouble. He is in trouble because, ladies and gentlemen, haha, Yo! Here comes Mr. Yo. I was expecting something like this. If you can't beat them, join them. That's exactly what Mr. Yo is doing. He's like, okay, you're on top of the walls, I'm gonna be on top of the walls. And that's exactly what Mr. Yo is doing. He's going to do the very same thing here, and that should be able to hold off this push quite nice and easy. In the right side, we do have quite a lot of archers coming in from CSOH, who apparently, according to chat, is one of the best Red Alert 2 players in China. Red Alert 2, obviously, an RTS game with massive legacy. Haven't heard about him so far, but his skills seem to be quite legit. And it looks like Vivi was tempted to take a fight against the Knights of Yomu, but you have a decent amount of spearmen crawling forward, so at this point, this is not a fight that Vivi can confidently take. And Yo is going to make a tower. That's a clever idea because the tower has the old Springald on it, so it does 66 or 60 damage by default, and it has a quite large range as well, so it can limit the movement of the enemies very nicely. And it looks like the archers of Fat Penguin get caught out of position. They are going to be surrounded by all those knights, and that's a ton of damage done here by the Fat Dragon. The entire idea of this Stonewall strategy is that the opponent's knights can't do anything because you're on top of walls. But looks like Fat Penguin decided to move out, and he's going to be rewarded with a couple of losses. Poor Deer gets caught in the crossfire. The tower is still being built, longbows are moving up. Longbows have abandoned the wall of Mr. Yo here, so Yo has to be careful. Yo losing 2 villagers over here, and the walls are still incomplete. Knights now charging in, and oh boy. Oh boy. At this point, Yo has to be careful not to lose those walls. Because one thing that you have to be very careful about when you make stone walls is that your opponents can take over them. And if that happens, that's a disaster for Mr. Yo. He couldn't finish the tower to walk on top of the wall. And at this point, because of that, he can't take the wall just yet. He's forced to retreat. Still, with the knights retreating for green, Vivi could get us around, but this is what I was talking about. Yo made the walls, and now purple is benefiting this one. Look at this. He's sending his longbows on top of the walls. Currently, it is Fat Penguin that's utilizing Mr. Yo's walls. That's what you have to be very careful about when you make stone walls. Your opponents can walk on top of those walls and just utilize those walls against you. So now, what Yo has to do is rush up on top of those walls and then just trade evenly here, over here. Meanwhile, we have some archers moving in from the Mongol players. Numbers seem to be slightly better for Bad Koala. Knight numbers also seem to be better for Vivi at this point. But the big fight obviously is happening on top of Mr. Yo's walls. He's got the network of castles bonus though. He's got the town center fire, so he should be able to finally clean this up. But he made himself look like he was in a very bad position with this fight, that's for sure. So finally, All those archers get taken down by Yo's forces, and Yo is going to finish the tower as well. That's going to give him some extra firepower at this point. In the middle, we do have some knights coming in. The numbers are fairly even for Yomu and Vivi. Archers slowly moving up as well for Bat Koala, but obviously he has to be very, very careful not to lose those to the knights. Right side is fairly peaceful. We do have a couple of towers coming in from CSOH though, so those will expand the YAM network, and you could place some weapon emplacements on them in the future, so that's going to help a tiny bit for CSOH. You see, his units are already inspired by the YAM network, and it looks like they do intercept the archers from Bat Koala. Koala losing quite a few numbers over there, and without knight support, most of those archers will get intercepted. Archers getting caught out of position was a terrible, terrible scenario here for Bat Koala, because all of those units are now going down, and with the YAM speed network, those archers from CSOH can also pursue. Do note that Mr. Yo's council hall is still being denied here, because the moment the longbowman pops out, these archers will kill it instantly. However, here comes a battering ram from Mr. Yo, and that battering ram should be able to blast a hole through that wall, allowing Yo to run on top of those walls. That would probably be the best way to do this. In fact, what he could have done is garrison the longbows into the ram, then ram down the walls, and then ran on top of the walls. That's probably what you want to do here. Longbows moving across the map here. Vivi, I think, has found them, and he's gonna be able to intercept those longbows potentially. Knight numbers also looking pretty decent here for Yomu, so Vivi decides to retreat for the time being. On the left side, the ram is slowly knocking down the walls, and it looks like Fat Penguin is going to call it a day. Behind this one, we haven't talked about the fact that the Fat Dragon and Bat Koala, two White Wolf Palace players, are both in Castle Age, and it looks like Fat Penguin's army, as it is retreating, is going to be caught by all of those now Castle Age knights. This is a fight that Vivi has to be happy with. There are quite a lot of knights over here as well, and now it's a 3v1, so maybe he wants to retreat. But before the arrival of those archers and spearmen from CSOH, there was a good chance to jump on top of those longbows. Once Yo comes in with his own forces, this is definitely a fight Vivi can take, simply because his knights are much, much better than the ones from the opponent. They still need to be very careful when it comes to taking these engagements though, of course, as we do have the knights clashing into each other. Still a 3 versus 2, no forces from Bat Koala to be seen on the battlefield. He's coming in with Lancers just now though, so another knight player coming in. Vivi aged up with... What did Vivi age up with? Vivi aged up with the Guild Hall. So oftentimes the Chinese teams like to pick the Royal Institute for their Castle Age up, so they can get the Royal Bloodlines upgrade. But that is not going to be the case right now. It's the standard Guild Hall. For now, Vivi healing up his knights. And on the right side, we could see a couple of Lancers moving out from Bat Koala. They're heading towards the base of CSOH, and that is wide open for raiding. Not much to defend here at this point, as CSOH is already on the way to Castle Age as well with the step right up. Here come the first couple of Lancers, and you can only fit 20 villagers inside that town center, so I'm fairly certain that Bat Koala would be happy getting 5, 6, 7 kills here with those Lancers, and that's exactly what we're seeing. But obviously, with the villagers being affected by the YAM network, it's a little more difficult to catch them, but that Castle Age is going to be quite heavily delayed here by the Lancers. Nice micro by CSOH to jump into the town center with those villagers. Ton of idle time though, and ton of villagers killed here by just a handful of Lancers. On the left side though, it's 3 versus 2 when it comes to army numbers, and a siege tower is out there for Yo. Yo isn't messing around, ladies and gentlemen. He was like, you got stone walls, I have a siege tower. Now, is he gonna need that? Unlikely, but style points are definitely given to Mr. Yo for that. Currently, Yo is the only player from White Wolf Palace that's not in Castle Age. We are still yet to see Fat Penguin and CSOH going into Castle, but Yo is already on the way with the King's Palace all the way to the far left. These Lancers are still rampaging the eco of CSOH, and now it starts to become a little concerning for them at this point, because 35 idols with 46 villagers alive, that starts to be pretty scary for Teal, because if you look at his economy, it's just absolutely getting wrecked. And it's not like their armies are going to be able to finish off Mr. Yo anytime soon. His Castle Age is still delayed, and at this point, those Lancers from Bat Koala are heading towards the gold mine of Yomu. Teal is pretty much dead. He's got basically no functional economy and no help on the horizon. There is absolutely nothing that is coming out of those barracks, those production buildings, and his teammates aren't coming back to help. You see, he has to scramble a couple of archers to deal with this, but by the time he does, he's going to be no factor. Meanwhile, for Mr. Yo, he's crawling up with a couple of villagers. Makes me wonder if we're going to see the same Stonewall strategy that he almost fell to, because Yo is like that. If he realizes that this strategy works, and if this strategy is legitimate, he's going to utilize that himself. He's in Castle Age, so he already has Veteran Longbowman, whereas his counterpart, Fat Penguin in purple, doesn't have the Castle Age just yet. Lancers still rampaging the eco of CSOH, and at this point, he just cannot clean this up, because there is just a never-ending trickle of Lancers coming from Bad Koala. A couple of villagers do get intercepted here by the Knights of Yomu, so there is going to be some retaliation. But on the left side, longbows are crawling up for Mr. Yo. He's opening up with an outpost for the time being, so that he's going to have vision and the network of castles bonus. Yo already adding some rams as well. He's going to play a ram push on that council hall. And Yo, instead of going for stone walls, he's going to play with a forward keep right next to the opponent's base. CSOH at this point is at least 5-6 minutes away from recovery, and I'm not sure how long our purple player, Fat Penguin, can hold out against this one. CSOH taps out, and with that, White Wolf Palace wins the game in game number 1. What a show! The tower rush that Fat Penguin, Yomu, and CSOH used in the previous round seemed to work for the first couple of moments, but then suddenly Yo was able to get his own stone walls up and pretty much just stall this out, and from that point on, it came down to the fact that neither of the sides took a fight, but White Wolf Palace had one flank, Bad Koala reaching Castle Age a little faster than the opponent, got a couple of Lancers in, and those Lancers were able to steamroll the Mongol player's economy. Ultimately, this kind of decline in the villager numbers is not something that you can survive in a team game, especially on such an open map. Ultimately, Bad Koala finishes the game with 75 kills to 73 losses, but if you look at those stats, out of that 75 kills, there is likely to be 30 villagers or so. VV, 56 kills, 16 deaths only. Very, very good show over there for him. And of course, when it comes to economy, VV, slightly less food than his counterpart in the pocket, somewhat surprisingly, but 2,000 more gold gathered. He probably had a slightly better economy at this point. And with that, White Wolf Palace takes game number 1. We're going into the home map of new players. Looking at the information provided, the map is going to be Danube River, and the civilization that is selected will be Delhi Sultanate, Chinese, and Holy Roman Empire for Mr. Yo's team White Wolf Palace, and the new players will pick Abbasid Dynasty, Delhi Sultanate, and Rus. So, quite a different approach over here. Both sides have Delhi, but for White Wolf Palace, it is going to be Chinese HRE, and on the other side, for the new players, it's going to be Rus and Abbasid Dynasty. This also means that White Wolf Palace did not use Rus in the first 2 games, which is a little surprising, given how powerful that civilization is when it comes to the gold efficiency of horse archers, when it comes to being able to collect so much bounty at the beginning of the game. So, a lot of intrigue in this one, a lot of surprises. I would say the game is being set up right now. So, game number 2 is about to begin. So, White Wolf Palace did play a very long and grindy game versus Vietnam Legends in a practice show match a couple of days ago. So, White Wolf Palace is familiar with this map, that's for sure. On the other hand, when it comes to Yomu and his team, I really feel like they have something special in store for us, especially with that Abbasid pick. That's going to be interesting to take a look at. Rus, fairly standard team game civilization, and once the game goes very, very late, that Rus civilization with the very gold efficient horse archers will be extremely powerful. Abbasid is the biggest question mark to me right now, because Delhi I think is a no-brainer pick that secures your fishing in Dark Age. Abbasids can go for the early dock, which gives them a nice eco advantage at the beginning of the game. Of course, multiple town center booms are legitimate with the fresh foodstuffs upgrade, so there is a lot of appeal to Abbasid Dynasty. I think the biggest question with them is their late game composition, because I'm not exactly sure what type of unit composition you are going for. As you see on the screen, English, French, and the Mongols were used in game number 1, so these are the civilizations that the teams are not allowed to use in game number 2. These will become available again once you get into game number 3 though. So For now, you cannot use French, Mongols, and English for either team. Any other civilizations are open, and these 3 civilizations will reopen for game number 3 if we go there, because it is match point right now for White Wolf Palace. They almost got eliminated in the last round. They were down 1 game against Eerie, Zerton, and Striker. Then they played a very long Hillandale game, even things out, and then finally finished the job on Highview, and they ultimately went 2-1 after starting 0-1 against Eerie, Striker, and Zerton, a very powerful team. So they definitely had a good warm-up yesterday, we can say that. And on the other side, CSOH, Fat Penguin, and Yomu had a slightly easier bracket, or they just had an easier time winning. But today, they are down 1 game, and we're yet to see them winning. We'll have to see if they can turn things around here on Danube River. They definitely have their options, I would say, but the biggest question is how are they going to utilize the Abbasid Dynasty to me? That is just such a gigantic question at this point, and I don't really have answers to it. Because, as I said, there is a lot of appeal to the Abbasid Dynasty at the early game, especially with how powerful their economy is going to be. But aside from that, I'm just struggling to see how they could be utilized in post-Imperial, because your unit composition in post-Imp isn't necessarily spectacular. There is definitely some fun stuff with them. I can see Camel Archers being a thing, I can see the Abbasid Trade Boom being a thing with the Trade Wing, so there is definitely some appeal, but there are also some question marks with the Abbasid Dynasty right now. Does the team see the civilizations picked by their team before the game starts? They draft, or they do a hidden pick, basically, on an external website. The way it works is that you cannot pick civilizations hidden from the opponents in the game, so you have to do it on an external site. So the answer is, before they jump into the game, they know the opponent's civilizations, yes, but theoretically speaking, they can't adjust their civilizations based on what they know of the opponent. So both of the teams basically have to state, these are the civs you're playing, and they only get to know the opponent's civs once they stated their own. That's the way it is handled. So technically speaking, they are picking civilizations blind, because in reality, they are unable to adjust their civilizations after they made up their choice on their own. Alright, the game is being set up right now. In fact, it already started. It looks like Mr. Yo is taking the bench, which is a little unconventional, but we have seen that being a thing for White Wolf Palace, because while Mr. Yo is technically the captain of the team, and he is probably the most accomplished Chinese player in the history of Age of Empires competitive scene, especially in Age of Empires 2, he seems and letting Bat Koala play. Bat Koala, Lix, and the Vivi will be the players for game number 2, and they will be up against the same 3 players, Fat Penguin, Yomu, and CSOH. Four minutes remaining from the spec countdown, as we will have a look at Danube River. White Wolf Palace will have Bat Koala playing as Delhi in blue. Chinese will be the civilizations for Vivi in teal. And last but not least, in purple, we're going to have Lix playing as the Holy Roman Empire. Other side, we're going to have Yomu playing as the Red Rus. CSOH will be playing the Abbasids in green. And last but not least, Fat Penguin will be playing the Delhi Sultanate as well in yellow. Whoops, it looks like we have a crash. That's gotta be a crash because the spec countdown ended prematurely. So that's a little... Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I 100% agree with this one because in case you haven't noticed, we do have one specific player, Lix, spawning on the other side of the water. Oh yeah, this obviously is not a crash, it's a restart from the players. Looks like the map failed to generate in the intended manner because Lix is on the side of the opponents. It sometimes happens that you have bugged map generations, and during the main event, we're going to have pre-picked seeds for the teams. Obviously, during the qualifiers, it's a little more difficult to pull off because there are so many matches, so it's impossible to pick 60, 70, 80 seeds that you need. But it is what it is. Lix accidentally spawning on the other side. Map bugs always happen in every single random map game, so we don't have to stress that much about this one. Although, honestly, for Lix, I feel like he probably would have been happy playing that one. Knowing his playstyle, knowing how aggressive he can go, he probably would have been like, okay, I'm fine playing this. Still, of course, for competitive integrity, you want to have a restart on this one, so that's exactly what we are going to have. The civilizations you can already see on the screen here, so we will have a couple of moments of a break until the game is restarted, and then we'll get going with game number 2 of this best of 3. Welcome back, everybody, to White Wolf Palace versus new players. The bad news is that we don't have a game just now for you because they regenerated the map and it had the same issue. So we'll have to take a look at whether or not their lobby settings are right, because yesterday we didn't have a single instance, as far as I know, in the large qualifiers when the map spawned in an unintended way. So it's possible that they didn't enable team positions or something like that. That's probably something that can cause issues like that. But hopefully the issue gets resolved quite swiftly. So they're doing a rehost. Once again, I do apologize for the delay. Obviously, these are somewhat uncharted territories. Team games is not something that you had tournaments with recently. In fact, this is the first major team game tournament. So there are still some stuff yet to be figured out, but we're sort of trailblazing over here, so obviously there's always gonna be some tiny hiccups. If you go back to the first Age of Empires 4 tournament, there were so many things that went in an unintended way, simply because obviously when you're the first one doing something, then you have to figure everything out yourself. Hopefully things will be slightly better with the new generation. So things stand, the new lobby is being created by the players. There's also a bit of a communication going on in the background. So we're still waiting for the Danube River game to start. After this one, we will have 3 more sets. Each set has, or each time frame has 2 sets going on at the same time. So in this time frame, we also have a second set going. That will be uploaded to YouTube as a separate VOD, because obviously the only way that we could fit the 8 sets in the schedule for one day is by having 2 parallel sets running at the same time. But you won't miss anything. Make sure to check out YouTube, because you can find all the VODs, including these, on YouTube as well. Okay, so it looks like the players are just now joining the lobbies. Can we see the names with Latin characters? Unfortunately not, because these are pulled from a database, but it is CSOH is the one that's going to play with the Abbasid Dynasty in green. Fat Penguin is the guy with the dash, with the Delhi Sultanate, and Yobu is the guy with the phrase similar characters at the end of his name. So they are the 3 players. While we're waiting, I want to give a quick shout out to all the support. Thank you so much, SF Fernando, for the 90 bits, 500 bits from Zatras. I appreciate that a lot as well. So thank you everybody for all the support. And we also had EGC TV resubbing, and of course Galahad gifting some subs. Thank you so much everybody for all the support. While we're waiting, okay, so Vivi's in the lobby, Lix is in the lobby, and I do assume Bat Koala is in as well. So we should have attempt number 3 pretty soon. Finals is best of 7, it will be a long match. Honestly, if if there is no major issues, it's not going to be that long, because it's not the games themselves being super long. Games are like 20-30 minutes on average, I would say, at maximum. So they're not particularly longer than, let's say, an Age of Empires 2 event would be. The biggest thing is setting up the lobbies, which obviously is a little slow because the quality of life features of Age of Empires 4 are pretty much non-existent for team game setups. So you can't pick positions by default, you can't pick colors, and it's just an absolute mess. The only way that you can pick positions is by joining the lobby in a specific order, and that's exactly what the players have to do over here. At the Danube River game here, it is still Lix, Bat Koala, and Vivi versus Yomu, Fat Penguin, and CSOH. If we are lucky, we'll have a long spec countdown, because if the spec countdown disappears really fast, that means that there's a restart or a crash. If there is no spec countdown disappearing, which seems to be the case right now, then we are good. So fingers crossed, but I think that we should be good with the map generation right now. So I would suspect that either the lobby settings was wrong or we got very, very unlucky with the previous two scripts. But we are only 3 minutes away from game number 2 here. On the top right, you can see the colors of each team. It is going to be yellow, teal, and purple for White Wolf Palace, red, green, and blue. So RGB colors, ladies and gentlemen, for new players. They'll be having Rus CSOH with the Abbasids and Yomu with the Rus, of course, and Fat Penguin with the Delhi. And on the other side, Lix will be controlling the Holy Roman Empire. Chinese will be in the hands of Vivi, and Bad Koala will be playing the Delhi Sultanate. One hour in AoE4 equals 35 minutes in AoE2. Nope, it's the other way around. 35 minutes in AoE4 equals about 1 hour in AoE2. So, trust me, the length of the sets are calculated. And yesterday we had a rather short day, if you think about it. So we had 3 consecutive best of 3s, and many people anticipate like 1 hour per game. But in reality, the entire day finished in like 4.5, 5 hours, simply because the games are not that long. Many games end in like 20, 30 minutes, simply because there's a lot of feudal fighting going on, and there could be a lot of snowballs. So, obviously, with team games, there's always the chance that one game goes super long, but the average game length isn't longer than, let's say, 25, 30 minutes, I would say, which in AoE 2 terms would translate to something like 45, 50 minutes, which is perfectly reasonable for an Age of Empires 2 team game, especially if you look at the average game length. So, the AoE 4 team games are not that much longer than AoE 2 team games, to be honest. And obviously, it depends on the maps that you're picking as well. So obviously, open maps, like, for example, Arabia or Highview, these maps usually have fast games, whereas if you have maps like French Pass, that's going to take a lot more time. That's part of the reason why we don't have maps like Warring Islands or French Pass, because we know exactly that maps like Warring Islands will take 2 hours no matter what in a team game setting. So obviously, those are considerations that are made and that were made before the tournament. So 30 seconds remaining over here. White Wolf Palace versus new players. We are ready to roll on Danube River. It is match point with White Wolf Palace having the lead. New players will have to win this game to stay alive and put this into a decider game. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to game number 2 in this best of 3 in between White Wolf Palace, Lix, Vivi, Bat Koala, and Mr. Yo, who is currently on the bench, versus CSOH, Yomu, and Fat Penguin, the new players. We are jumping into Danube River, especially if the game decides to load up. We're jumping into Danube River if all goes as planned, as the home map of the new players. Right now, White Wolf Palace is up 1 game, and game? Would you care to load up or something like that? Anything? Game? Please? Well, that went well. Alright. Sometimes you just gotta press that Alt F4 hotkey combination. And, well, you gotta restart the game. Hopefully, second attempt is gonna go better. They are in the game, because otherwise, if they crashed, we would have come up with a join before the spec countdown ends. So the game is going, it's just the game having issues when it comes to joining. Ton of issues with these two teams. Apparently, might be server side issues as well, because they had some server issues right when they began their set, so that could be part of the equation as well. Alright, attempt number 2. Nope, attempt number 2, the game crashes. Well, attempt number 3 coming in. Alright, so attempt number 3. So far so good. Let's pray that we can jump into the game. Cross your fingers, ladies and gentlemen. Quite a bit of a break in between the games over here. Hopefully things will go a little smoother from now on. Joining into the game. Boss champ. Fingers crossed. Game is loading up really slowly. I'm a little scared. Oh. Oh. Almost. Almost. Oh, thank God we're in. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, after some scary moments with some game crashes and stuff like that, we're finally in game number 2 of this best of 3 between White Wolf Palace and new players. It is going to be the home map of new players, picking the RGB colors over here, CSOH playing with the Abbasids in red. You are going to have Fat Penguin playing as the Deli in green, and on the left side, you're going to have Yomu using the Bruce in blue. And on the other side, you're going to have the Fat Dragon Vivi in purple. On the right side, we'll have Lix playing as the Holy Roman Empire in blue, and Bad Cola is going to be picking Deli in yellow. So looking at the map here, obviously you have a river with a ton of fish and Deli salt not available for both sides. So they will go very heavy on the fishing department, or the docks are coming up for both CSOH with the Abbasids in red and the Deli player, Fat Penguin, in green. Looks like there is no dock coming for our blue player just yet. And this is the first big decision point that you're going to have to make. Because on hybrid maps or water maps with the Rus, you make a dock, but that means that you sacrifice your hunting cabin. If you sacrifice your hunting cabin, you won't have a ton of scouts at the beginning, so you won't be able to effectively kill a ton of hunt. On the other side, I feel like at this point, for the Rus player, the best thing that you might want to do is go for the hunting cabin, get as much bounty as you can, and then just build that dock a tiny bit delayed, and you will still be fine. Lix and Bat Koala already coming in with their scouts, though, trying to intercept a villager from CSOH. A Deli fishing ship is out, though, from Fat Penguin, and they should be able to scare away those scouts. Very nice team coordination from both sides over here. Bo's already coming up for CSOH in the middle. They want to make sure that there's no land aggression coming through at any moment. And it looks like this villager already fought a wolf before. Villager exposed to the scouts of Lix and Bat Koala. The answer is going to be killing one sheep. The answer is going to be killing potentially 2 sheep. But ultimately, it probably would have been better to just make a run for that fishing ship, because that fishing ship was so close, it could have saved that villager, but it looks like there was a breakdown of communications between Yomu and his teammates, because that villager could have been saved. Ultimately, Lix and Bat Koala get away with a villager kill, and also a dock that's heavily delayed from the Rus player. Looking at the Rus player's bounty, we already have 185 bounty in the bank. Quite a decent amount, given the fact that the game has been going on for only 2.5 minutes at this point, as you already have the walls up for CSOH. Fishing ship out as well to scare away the scouts of Lix. And as things stand, I wouldn't be surprised to see CSOH even coming up with walls perpendicular to the existing ones to prevent any kind of aggression to this little corner of fishing. The Abbasid player is also heavy on the fishing department. Obviously, the cheaper dock helps a lot with that, as you see. Yomu is going to move out with the villager once again to make a dock. Once again will be intercepted by a wolf, although even though he loses villager HP on this one, I think he has to be happy with that, because he gets 25 gold per kill on those wolves. and he's going to play with a dock to the far right. The other side, we do have our Chinese player, Vivi, with green, or excuse me, purple. He already has a decent amount of fishing ships out. We have Voas coming in the middle by Lix. He also has a dock up with the Holy Roman Empire, and we have a Delhi dock as well for Bad Koala. So, one of the biggest problems, I think, for Bad Koala is that he's in the position where it's going to be difficult to protect his teammates' fish. If you compare the positions, you look at these dock positions, the fishing eco for Fat Penguin is so close to the teammates that if there is a push coming in early game from the Delhi player, let's say Bad Koala, then he can just repel that with his own fishing ships and help his teammates. That's not applicable vice versa, because if Fat Penguin pulls his fishing ships and starts pushing Vivi, Vivi's fishing eco is wide open and exposed. So there's definitely a window for aggression here for the new players. Gate is up as well for them. Other side, we also have a gate for Lix. So far so good. Very similar approaches to Dark Age. We do have a Holy Roman Empire player here for Lix, and obviously his game plan is going to be some sort of fast Imperial. He wants to go for the relics for the Regnis Cathedral as well in Castle. 1, 2, 3 relics quite close to him, so he's almost guaranteed to have enough relics to make that Regnis Cathedral working. Tower up as well for Yomu. He has already gotten to 400 bounty, which is pretty decent. Obviously, being the only Rus player helps a ton, because there is just no competition for all those huntables. Easy 400 bounty for him, and with that wooden fortress, his lumberjacking is going to be very efficient. You see that you even have Fat Penguin donating some sheep to him, so that's going to help a tiny bit. Which raised the question of what exactly Fat Penguin is doing, and the answer is that he's mostly just doing fishing, coming in with the Dome of Faith right now, alongside a mosque in the pocket. Whereas on the other side, we already have Dome of Fate coming in as well for Bad Koala. He's on stone, so that's going to be a 2 town center build from him. Obviously a 1 town center build from our Holy Roman Empire player, as you would expect, coming in with the Aachen Chapel. And for Vivi, the Fat Dragon, is there a stone mining operation for him? The answer seems to be no, so he's going to play 1 town center for the time being. The other side, our Rus player could technically go for a fast castle style approach over here because he's got a ton of bounties, so going up with the Golden Gate and then just buying yourself up Castle Age could be an idea. Maybe even play Horse Archers. The left side is so open here that if you play Horse Archers, you could do a ton of damage to the opponents on land. That's definitely an option that you have to consider. Abbasids going up with the economy wing, as you would expect for CSOH. Question is he on stone? And the answer is no, which is a little surprising. I would have expected a 2 town center play from the Abbasids over here. Tower coming up from Bad Koala, trying to deny the fishing, but it will be stopped by the fishing ships of Fat Penguin, and also a couple of scouts were pulled. So Bad Koala's towering is going to fail over here. The fishing eco will remain safe. First, the Feudal Age is going to be Lix, obviously. Holy Roman Empire economy helping quite a bit for him. And as things stand, food ecos looking quite even for the 2 teams. Slightly better, maybe, for 1 or 2 players. Mostly it is Yomu and Fat Penguin, the best food economies. Barbican of the Sun coming in here for Vivi, and that's the idea. He wants to make the Barbican of the Sun to this crossing, so if any kind of combat ship passes through, the Barbican of the Sun is going to get some nice hits on them. Clever idea from Vivi, I would say. There's some risk involved because these villagers are right now very exposed to any kind of aggression, including scouts. And it's only 2 villagers building the Barbican of the Sun, so it's going to take quite a lot of time to finish it as well. But in the long run, this will provide quite a lot of safety for Vivi. With that, Vivi is also reaching Feudal Age, as this tower ultimately goes up, but it will be taken down quite rapidly by the scouts and this first Dao. The villager also goes down. So no more repairs are coming in, and the tower is going to be set on fire in a matter of seconds. Minimal land aggression going on. The only attempt was from Bad Koala to make this tower. He loses 1 villager in the process, so that is going to compensate for the villager killed before from Yomu. The tower actually finishes with the weapon emplacements, but it's going to be a little too late, and by the time it comes in, it's not going to be a major factor. It does kill 1 scout from CSOH, so there was some return value, but very minimal at this point. And you see, we have Daos sailing forward already to try and push the fishing eco of Vivi. Vivi's gonna come in with some wars on the left side, and he's not messing around. He's coming in with the stone walls. he doesn't want to get raided by horse archers, I'm fairly certain, because if you look at our blue player, 545 bounty, with those resources, he can go up to Castle Age any moment. In fact, he's floating a ton of food, so his eco was even a tiny bit unbalanced. But here comes the Abbey of Eternity, and it's likely going to be a horse archer play from Yomu. From our Abbasid player, I'm still a little puzzled on what exactly he's planning to do. He's got an early market up, which is a little surprising. But it seems like for now it's just going to be a water push. We're seeing a large amount of dows coming in from him. Cross-walling attempted by Fat Penguin here to make sure that the opponent's ships can't cross. But it looks like Vivi doesn't even want to cross. He's just going for the Stonewall defense. First couple of combat ships popping out right now for Fat Penguin. Vivi has to be careful not to lose any kind of fishing eco here. That is going to be one fishing ship potentially going down. Vivi is a little slow to react, as the second one is also going to go down to the bottom of the river. A couple more fishing ships could be the victims of this aggression. Was a little slow of a reaction right now from the Fat Dragon. Meanwhile, stone walls are being constructed very nice and easy from Vivi. At this point, it seems like he has the chance to finish those stone walls before any kind of land aggression arrives. A couple of scouts battling it out here on the left side, and it seems like Yomu is very close to losing that scout. He has to be careful. That scout is being trailed by 9 sheep, so losing that would be an absolute disaster because Vivi would take over all of those sheep, so he would return home with 14. Best thing that they could do is lure that scout close to the water, where the opponent's fishing boat or a dhow can finish it off. As things stand, that isn't really happening, so looks like our blue player will just try to pull back Vivi's scout all the way to his base. A couple of combat ships are out here, though, for CSOH and Fat Penguin. They just brute force their way through that Barbican of the Sun, and that's the danger that you're facing here. The Barbican of the Sun doesn't have a lot of firepower, so they will try to pass over here. Reaction was fast, though, from Lix, and he already has walls up, so now these ships are sort of trapped. This move may have just backfired for CSOH and at Penguin, because as things stand, Vivi's got combat vessels over here denying their escape, whereas on the other side, they just can't go this direction. Still, Vivi's junks here aren't really performing well against those dhows, so he's gonna need a couple more combat ships to fight this, but for now, these ships aren't really accomplishing much here for the new players team. On the other side, we do have apparently a couple of combat ships coming in here because, ladies and gentlemen, Lix is coming forward with a couple of demolition ships. And as you see, these fishing ships are probably being converted to combat ships as soon as possible. Lix wanted to move forward with a couple of docks. He's the first player to Castle Age, so he's gonna be the one trying to demo rush the opponent's fishing eco, and there is just so much to kill over here. Fishing ships being so fragile, and that demolition ship completely ignoring them means that they will survive for a little longer. Still, demolition ship could do a ton of damage here, and this could be the perfect blast for Lix. He is going to sink 3 Lodya ships, but he managed to get some kills here with that demo. Still, I believe that these fishing boats are meant to be converted to combat ships at some point. Meanwhile, on the other side, it looks like we have a halt from Lix, so that's going to prevent these ships from breaking through, and Vivi is going to clean this up. Stonewall is also coming in for Bat Koala. Vivi managed to stonewall off the entire side of their map, as we have a forward dock coming in from CSOH as well. Boy oh boy, a lot of fighting going on everywhere on the map now. So demolition ships coming in from Vivi, as we also have a couple of hulks now hitting the field. Not a lot of combat vessels up until now from green or blue. Couple of towers also coming in here from Bat Koala, and he's coming in with tower war elephants. Oh my goodness, so many things going on at the same time at this point. This dock is yet to start affecting the game at this point, but this is the big question here. There's already hawks coming out that will just smash those dhows in the face. These fishing boats are still just fishing, and they're not actual combat vessels to destroy the docks with. And a single hawk could do so much, especially supported by some elephants, which could start knocking through those walls. First hawk pops out, and that should be able to sink the overwhelming majority of the fishing eco over here. New players are in trouble, I do believe. The dhow goes down, and now you see it is Yomu scrambling for a defense with his Lodya ships. He has a lot of them, so if he converts all of them into combat ships, he should be able to repel a single hawk. But that's going to be quite difficult at this point. You already see our green player, Fat Penguin, moving out with a score. He tried to capture this sacred site, most likely, but that will be intercepted by Lix. And now I feel like White Wolf Palace may be in a commanding position, because you see, towers are denying all these fishing spots, and the ones on the right side are being denied by a hawk. You already see some elephants on the battlefield as well. On the right side, you do have a demolition ship coming in to sink some fishing ships, though, so CSOH is here to retaliate, sinking so many fishing boats. The villager might get killed here by a fishing ship, and that's going to be annoying for CSOH if it happens. Vivi reaching Castle Age just now. We'll have to see what Bad Koala does to deal with all those docks out there. He's making fishing ships for the time being, no demolition ships. On the right side, it looks like we have a Buglaw coming out, trying to fight off multiple Hawks over here, but the Buglaw isn't performing that well against Hawks, so this is going to be a difficult defense for Green to pull off, and it looks like those towers are being garrisoned by elephants. So as things stand, Bad Koala wants to make one big elephant push happen. In the middle, the Buglaw does get intercepted by the towers, so instead of getting it repaired, it will ultimately be sunk before it could do a ton of damage to the Hawks. Hawks now slowly cleaning up the docks on this side. We have a couple of Camel Archers coming in from our red player, supported by some Men-at-Arms as well, but they won't be able to break through these walls anytime soon. On the right side, no more demolition ships coming in right now for red, but he's got one more sailing forward, and a big mass of Horse Archers as well that we haven't talked about. So many Horse Archers out here, demolition ship coming in from Lixstow, and he sinks all of those. All of the horsemen going down to the demolition ship blast. What a spectacular move by Lix. Demolition ships are extremely powerful, and Yomu was playing with fire over there with the Horse Archers. He wanted to pick off the fishing ships, but ultimately he ended up losing all of his Horse Archers out there. Massive explosion. Still gigantic Horse Archer production right now for Yomu. But one thing he doesn't really know about is the elephants just yet. And the elephants are yet to hit the field. And once they do, they can start smacking those buildings in the face. Couple of Stonewall towers being placed here by Bad Koala. That's gonna be the response to the ships popping out, because the moment they pop out, these towers will sink them. So, clever idea there by Bad Koala. To deal with that, Lix trying to bash his way through these walls over here with the support of Vivi. But the big question is going to be in the middle. How do Elephant Archers perform against Horse Archers? In a straight-up fight, that should be on the side of Bad Koala, as you have a keep coming in as well here. Multiple scholars for Bad Koala will empower the production buildings nearby. That's going to help as well. You even have a mosque coming in, where you see Bad Koala is making scholars. Behind this one, we have Imperial Age as well for Lix, so he can get the explosives unique tag, and Lix also decided to go for a landing here. He does have a transport ship. He managed to make one stable, but the second one will be denied. But now you have one stable that's going to be difficult to destroy for Fat Penguin, simply because there is Hawks guarding it. Fighting going on everywhere in the map. There's just so much chaos happening. Elephant Archers now coming out for green as well, as the elephants of Bad Koala start moving, starting to knock down all those buildings out here. Horse Archers in quite large numbers, but you see, these tower elephants do have 5 ranged armor, so they're not messing around, especially with the 1000 HP. Still, it's only 3 Elephant Archers as opposed to 32 Horse Archers, and it looks like the Horse Archers are willing to take this fight. They're trying to pick off the Scholars to prevent the healing from happening. Elephant Archers now moving in. Elephant Archers can also shoot while moving, so that's something that helps just move closer and closer to the Horse Archers and keep shooting at them, whereas Horse Archers have to stop to shoot. A couple of Knights are trickling in here for Lix, trying to be as disruptive as possible, as on the left side, a battering ram from CSOH is knocking through the walls, so these walls protected Vivi's base for a long time, but that soon is going to be history, because the Great Wall of China here is about to be broken through by elephants. That one Elephant Archer is going to prevent the villagers from repairing. Even if the villagers are on top of the walls, the Elephant Archer will slowly pick them off. In the middle, we still have the archer ranges up. The blacksmith went down. Docks slowly getting cleaned up from CSOH. But that's a sizable force of crossbowmen and men-at-arms getting closer and closer to the left side of Vivi's base. Lix is landing. Still not doing a ton. He does have a couple of elite knights popping out, but that's basically it. I wonder if he's going to send another villager to make that stable happen. It's still going to be annoying to deal with for Fat Penguin, especially considering that he's still in Castle Age. Elephants now cleaning up all the archer ranges in the middle. And as things stand, White Wolf Palace is in a commanding position, I would say. There is still a large force of horse archers, though, and they are heading to the left side of the map. There is no demolition ship here to sink them, so as things stand, with all those rams, horse archers, mangonels, and whatnot coming up for the new players, Vivi's base could be pushed very, very easily. Vivi is in Yuan Dynasty and he does have granaries going for him. He's very heavy on the stone, has a Spirit Way, so Fire Lancers are coming in the next 1 or 2 minutes, but can he hold on for 2 minutes? That's the big question. I feel like it's starting to become a now or never situation for the new players because they're losing the middle and Vivi is getting close to Fire Lancers at this point, and this army won't be able to stop Fire Lancers. Still, there's minimal forces for Fat Dragon right now. So if you look at Vivi's POV, he's got 0 army. So he's still yet to get to Elite Fire Lancer. He has the production for it, and he's just now starting to produce them. So those Horse Archers have to do a ton of damage before the Fire Lancers appear on the field. Lix's Landing being a little annoying, not something that's really devastating, but it's going to kill some villagers, and that's going to be annoying for sure. In the middle, Elephants are slowly pushing through for Bad Koala. A bit of a miss micro with the Scholars all the way up on the front. Towers also coming up for Bad Koala. Stonewall Towers will pick off the fishing boats, so it's going to be more and more difficult for the team of CSOH to go fishing. Boiling Oil is in as well for those keeps, so they do a ton of damage on those Horse Archers. You see, many of those Horse Archers are already heavily damaged. Fire Lancers will try to snipe the siege weapons. Don't forget that these guys do have a lot of torch damage, and this is a miss micro, I believe, from Blue. He needs to focus down those Fire Lancers and those Knights, because otherwise the Rams will be destroyed. Cannon emplacement coming in as Vivi is pulling every single villager available for him to repair, and this is a desperate repair from Vivi. He needs to keep that castle alive by himself sometime, but because Blue is killing the economy, I feel like this keep is staying alive. It would have been probably more beneficial to keep the Horse Archers here, pick off those incoming Fire Lancers, the Knights, and potentially pick off a couple of villagers. As things stand, Vivi is running out of wood though, and there's still 2 battering rams working here, both of them being low HP. They should be cleaned up. The Horse Archers have been doing work though, so despite the fact that they weren't here in this specific fight, they have damaged Vivi's eco quite a bit, but I don't think it was enough. Vivi's still at 112 villagers, and he also has his teammates that could slink him some resources to continue Fire Lancer production. And as things stand, this push is slowly stalling out. In the middle, you have a pretty sizable force of Elephants already marching through. They do not have the crossbows upgrade just yet, so they are not so great against heavy units, but against light units they will perform quite nicely. Horse Archers are slowly getting cleaned up, but there is a forward. And it looks like we're gonna have a decent force of Spearmen coming in here for CSOH. He's still in Castle Age, but that forward is going to help quite a bit, negating the damage that the Fire Lancers can cause. Obviously, once you have a good mass of Fire Lancers, you can jump on that keep. The question is how many Spearmen CSOH can get on the field in the next couple of moments. Elephants not doing much on the other side of the river. Most of the fighting is going on this side. As things stand, the Spearman numbers aren't spectacular. Horse Archers helping out a tiny bit. There is a Bombard from Vivi. He's in Imperial Age, so he can start knocking down that keep. In fact, the keep is already lit ablaze, so with that, there is no more protection to those barracks. A couple of villagers are getting picked off though. Vivi at 110 villagers. As things stand, some Spearmen are out, but these are not spectacular at this point when it comes to upgrades or numbers. So I think Vivi should have all the tools he needs to clean this up. He already has a fairly large mass of Fire Lancers. Elephants marching into the base of Fat Penguin, and CSOH is going to call a quits on this one. With those Elephants marching into the Delhi player's base, White Wolf Palace takes the win. Very, very convincing play from them. Because the game plan, I think, was slightly better here with the Chinese. Not exactly sure what the Rus or the Abbasids in particular were meant to do here, because the Rus, it was a great idea to have a Horse Archer civilization, obviously, over here, but the Abbasids was a bit of a puzzling decision, and ultimately we haven't seen much from the Abbasids aside from combat ships and some fishing eco. We didn't see a double town center boom, we didn't see Camel Archers, so I'm a little puzzled why Abbasids was the choice here. Chinese may have been a slightly better choice ultimately. As you see, Holy Roman Empire 4, Lix paid off really well with the Palace of Swabia, of course. And just look at Vivi with that boom. That was a 2000 Song Dynasty boom, of course, for Vivi, supported by a fishing economy. He started losing villagers in the end, but he could just replace them with military population, and he started to rise in Fire Lancer numbers really fast. Ultimately, if you look at the KD, 75 kills, 30 deaths for Bad Koala. Pretty decent performance. Licks at 57-51 is not spectacular, but he was very disruptive. He went on with the demos, killed quite a lot of fishing ships at the beginning, and then he continued with the landing, and that once again disrupted the eco of Fat Penguin. If you look at the villager graph in particular for our green player, Fat Penguin, you see that every once in a while there was 1 or 2 knights coming in and started picking off villagers, and those were just adding to the level of annoyance and just pushing him into a pit that's getting deeper and deeper. If you compare the two Delhi players, which was Fat Koala and Fat Penguin, you see villager discrepancy started getting bigger and bigger by the end of the game. Most of that comes from Lix's landing out here. And with that, White Wolf Palace is in the top 8. A team that almost got eliminated in the previous round performed really well today, and they are looking strong. They are the team that really doesn't have any spectacular 1v1 players in Age of Empires 4 on their roster, but their team coordination is very good, their strategy selection is very, very good, and they made it into the top 8